Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video. A lot of interesting new developments and details about the Robotaxis and Cybercabs that I'd like to briefly talk about at the intro. Now, this video I took on my previous trip. They are driving the Cybercabs all over in multiple numbers, different variations. This one has black wheel covers. They also do not have the customary trailing Model 3s that was validating data anymore, and they are driving all over the site as they get ready for the big Cybercab and Robotaxi event in Austin coming up in June. Now, I was able to verify on my previous flight that the Cybercabs are operating out of the parking garage. This is one on the left-hand side of the screen departing, and they've been doing a lot of their operations inside. There's another development here too. If you look on the roof, there are a lot of new Model Ys and older Model Ys with LiDAR racks on the roof. This is an example here of what we were seeing. Now, these are important because this entire place with this parking garage and they're using new Model Ys is kind of the operating center for testing around Austin. And thanks to Josh West, yesterday he saw a lot of these driving around downtown Austin. This is, of course, related to the Robotaxi event and the Cybercab use in Austin coming up in June. So I think this is a great sign that the developments are continuing and are on track. Another development about autonomous driving here at Giga-Texas, Tesla is now having the Model Ys drive themselves from the factory over to the outbound lot. They're doing it with a supervised driver, as you can tell here in this video I took on my previous visit. I'll zoom in and you can clearly see that the driver is there, but he is not driving the vehicle. This is part of the last portion of testing before they go fully implemented with this here at Giga-Texas. And finally, we have some new information about the rear casting for the new Model Y, and I'll give you these clips from Monroe Live when they're talking to Lars Moravy very recently.
And when we went to this vehicle, we went back to one common body across the globe because we wanted to make sure that we had good interchangeability between each of our factories. We run into supply chain issues. This has a modified version of what was in the old Model Ys with the front end, and the rear end is still cast, and we actually redid the whole rear casting. It's about 7 kilos lighter now. It's got about half the machining on it. Wow. And we continue just to improve it there. I mean, we're using that now here too, but it's crazy for me. I was just looking at the numbers with my team. You know, the original one-piece casting from 2020 when we came out with this was like 67 kilos. Yeah. And now we're down just below 60. And it's crazy to think that we took out almost 15% of the mass, and we increased the stiffness, and we increased the the point mobility locally. And I mean, the other thing that's impressive is our cycle time went from like 180, 170 seconds. We're down about 75 seconds now. So we do that through conformal cooling.
Yeah,
so,
right. Yeah.
So
I
we
knew
actually
the cooling was
in the die.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now we have thermal controllers that can have one for the entire die, and it allows us to control within the fractions of a second how much water is going where to cool what part of the die. Yeah. And that means we can flow the material quicker through the die, not necessarily like, it's still a 10 millisecond, 12 millisecond shot, but we can cool it quicker as it gets in there. And that solidification time, really getting the whole thing to cool at once is what helps us with dimensional stability and, getting it out of the mold faster. Yeah. You take out the puzzle piece, put a new one in for maintenance. And that we actually now, in order to do all this, we have a die shop in Texas, make our own inserts and do our own maintenance and all that kind of stuff.
At the end of the day, it's not rocket science once you've got, if they make the mold, pulling out a section and putting another one in is not that big a deal.
For more information, I would recommend you look at the full video. The link is at the bottom of the screen. It's also in the video description. It's worth watching. So with that, you're up to speed on Robotaxis, Cybercabs, and also rear castings for the Model Y. Let's get into the drone. Let's fly around and see what Giga-Texas looks like today. If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are interested in Tesla products, you can help yourself and support me by using my referral code. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. right, another beautiful morning here at Giga-Texas. We're starting off on the west side. I wanted to take advantage of the relatively low lighting and the clouds and show you some views inside where we are seeing some expansion of the interior volume of Giga-Texas. This mezzanine on the third floor has been added. Some of the plastic sheeting you can see through now. There is some equipment being brought in for installation. And on the top floor, you can see additional work being done on that new mezzanine. And all of this is going to be new production space as that continues to develop. This is also a nice shot of that west main entrance with that original Roadster display. And this also gives you an idea where we are located here on the factory. Now I'm going to come back up to the third floor, show you more of this mezzanine, that plastic wrap, and through some of the openings, you can see the work that is being done just behind that plastic, and there's going to be a lot of equipment that needs to be moved in through this section of the factory. That's why there's some windows that have been removed further up to the north, and I will show you those there momentarily. But here's a nice break in the plastic. We can look through and just get a good idea of all of the equipment that is starting to show up. Some of this, I believe, is from the west staging yard, and some of it is new. We see some robot assemblers inside, and they're under some of that silver wrapping. But all of this is definitely making a lot of progress, and hopefully we'll start seeing the equipment installed soon. Now, as we continue to fly to the north, this is more of the section that has been kind of here for a while. We've seen battery packs that have been stored in this site before on the third floor. But the big news is in the far background, you can see another false wall. Looks like it's partially painted, and that is a new addition as well. Of course, all of the materials that are being stored here, some of which are structural packs, some of which are some building materials or production equipment. So all of this is definitely taking shape. But there is a lot of structural packs here because this is the part of the factory that does make the structural packs. Now, as we continue to fly along here, we see this opening with that plastic. This is where they removed a wall panel and windows, and they can move more equipment inside. And on the bottom is kind of a cafeteria for the employees and some other meeting spaces as well. As we continue to pass the window shades that are used because of the hot sun that it sets on the west just behind the drone, we can see some more areas here where we're getting into the 4680 battery cell production part of the factory, plus some office space on the second floor. And as we continue to fly here along this space, there's some views through the second floor down into the ground floor where there is some equipment for the 4680s. Coming back up to the third floor, this is the office space for 4680, plus a lot of the machinery that does the jelly rolls, that rolls that dry cathode material together and places it into the can that makes the 4680s. And that is much of the equipment that you see here with kind of those orange windows and the flashing lights that is going on. More office space on the second floor as we continue to fly to the north along this part of the factory. And here we're getting into kind of the break room area again, a cafeteria showing up on the left-hand side of the screen once we pass all of these offices that you see on the second floor. And behind all of those shades on the angled part of the factory on the second floor is another cafeteria. So I'm going to pull away and kind of give you a broad look of the entire factory from this perspective, and then I'll maneuver the drone around and we're going to take a look at some of the other parts of the site today, starting with the north construction zone. Nice look at the new Megapack site just at the bottom of the screen. We'll come back for some lower views momentarily, but I wanted to show you the overall work that is being done here at the Central Campus Support Facility, how that grade is continuing to widen up. And where the earthwork and the center dump trucks on the left-hand side of the screen, it is further being widened. Now it looks like there is some roadways kind of being done on the west and the south side, framing in this section of the graded section for those facilities. And again, a lot of progress being made. We see a lot of rebar and rebar cages being built for footings in the middle of the screen, and I'll give you some closer views here momentarily. But for now, this is a nice look to the northwest across this new construction site. While we are here, I wanted to get an update of this work with the underground stormwater management system. The trench boxes on the bottom of the screen have been removed and the trenches have been mostly filled in. They are working kind of in that alleyway between the two south ends of the structure with some additional piping. All of the steel corrugated pipe on the bottom of the screen is what's going to be going in and through this location to tie together the new construction site with this water detention and filtration pond that is behind the drone. I'm just going to scan back towards the main factory across the east warehouse and wheels, some of the warehouses and workshops for the workers, some of the equipment, and some of the containers and trailers that are on this side of the site. Just a nice review of all of this area. And as I mentioned before, this is all temporary, and eventually when the construction for the main factory and all of the various projects that we're seeing underway right now is completed, this part of the site can be developed and will be developed into something new. In fact, this part is big enough for another Giga-Texas. So it'll be really interesting to see over time what Tesla does with all of this property that they have. Now, as we fly back over the old maintenance shop for the concrete trucks, we see some white tanks on the bottom right of the screen, some additional equipment being stored in this location. And as we pass over the field kitchen on the bottom of the screen, it's a good overall look at that filtration pond on the right where the water management system will connect to. Of course, the crash test facility and the battery cathode plant on the left with some trailers bringing in new vehicles. The crash test facility appears to be very busy, more Cybertrucks being crash tested, but also along the fence on the left, there are many of the new Model Ys that have undergone or are getting ready to go through crash testing. So I think that's part of that process that they go through to get the NHTSA crash testing ratings and prepare the vehicles for that test. The opening on the side of the cathode plant looks like the doorway is open. We can see just inside, but otherwise that yellow place looks like they got everything moved in. Looking up to the northeast across this facility, we see some of the pipe work being stored, some of the concrete being ready for recycling, and of course the dirt that's being stored. A nice view across the north face of the cathode plant to the new construction site. And as I maneuver the drone around here on this side, we can get a good idea of just the materials that are still being stored below the drone, some of the steel corrugated pipe on the right-hand side of the screen, and of course the chiller plant for the die shop and the cathode plant. And this is a nice close-in view of what this looks like today, looking down the alleyway to that work that we saw previously, and through that alleyway where they're continuing to work on pipes underneath the ground. More equipment has been stored here, plus these red items, which are parts of another bridge crane that have been delivered. And you can kind of get an idea of what the weighting or the weight limits of those parts are. Of course, the exterior furnace on the left-hand side of the screen as well. More of the steel corrugated pipes stored here for that underground water management system. I expect to see more of that arrive as they fill out and finish up the underground system for this site. As I stay at a lower altitude, I just wanted to give you a good sense of the construction that is going on at almost ground level. We can see how they're dividing up the middle section with some of those cones and doing some kind of pile drilling right now. As we get closer to the die shop, a few things I want to show you. On the right-hand side of the screen is all the rebar that's been delivered, and they're fashioning them into the footing cages, and those will be placed into rectangular excavations throughout the entire site, and this will be able to support the columns for the new buildings. And this is a nice low-end view with workers so you can get a sense of scale. There will be many of these being made. The fact that they are already making these is a great sign. So coupled with the pier drilling that we see going on at the top of the screen, preparing for the areas where that excavation will be, it looks like this is going to go pretty quickly as far as manufacturing these new facilities. And here's a closer view in of some of the augers at work and the work that is being done. And it looks like the pattern is in where the areas would be for those footings. And that'll be just something I'll track, and then we start seeing the excavations and we'll get a better feel for exactly how these facilities will take shape. But as a reminder, there will be 3 structures and 2 5 million gallon tanks, water tanks, around this area where we are flying. And I'm going to bring the drone up around to a higher altitude and just kind of give you an overall view. As I bring the drone back down, this depression that you see in the middle bottom of the screen is where it's going to be filled in, and they're going to expand the electrical switch yard on top of this location in the near future. We do see some work being done already for this area by lowering the grade and using the dirt for the main construction site behind the drone. As we fly up over the power lines, I wanted to give you a lower end view of this new Megapack site with activity on the north end. There are 4 excavations with the formwork, some conduit that is being laid down within these 4 formed section, and looks like possibly some rebar as well. So I think these will be filled with concrete, and then they will be putting some electronic equipment on top of these 4 structures. Of course, the conduit connects to the electrical switch yard on the south end of that facility. The transformers and the cable trays are a great view here of how this is coming together. And of course, the beams on the ground on either side will be for the Megapacks. And speaking of Megapacks, I did notice on my previous video, but I wanted to come back and reconfirm. Just to the south here, past the workshops on the right-hand side of the screen, is perhaps one of the first of the Megapacks that have been delivered. It's got the distinctive white plastic wrapping and those emblems on the top of the package, and that is definitely indicating a Megapack. So we should see a lot of those arriving very soon. Now, staying at this altitude, I'll zoom in and give you a look at this north lot. We are seeing more of the rack mounts for the castings being stored here, in addition to the old bumper paint stands. And now that the design studio for Tesla officially removed the old Model Y for ordering last night, that just reaffirms that those paint stands are no longer needed. Here at the melt plant, a nice view in where we see that blast wall. There's sort of those Lego type blocks there. It looks like this is going to be used to store those items, plus the furnace loading system. And of course, the baghouse filtration plant continues to take shape. On the bottom of the screen, I just wanted to show you the number of castings that are being made. I believe all of these are the rear Model Y castings. And as we talked about in the video intro, you have a better idea of how they're being made, how they have changed, and their differentiation as far as the speed to manufacture. While I was maneuvering the drone, I did notice that there are 2 Cybercabs undergoing testing here, going through the roundabout. So I'm going to follow these around for just a short period of time. Notice that they are driving without the chase car that is doing or has in the past been doing some ground truth testing and validation of the sensors. So these are just driving by themselves here today. And it looks like they were testing out a roundabout and just this part of the site. The bottom right of the screen are those mystery tents that may be related to inductive charging, perhaps for the Cybercabs or perhaps for some other purpose. But here they go through another one of the gates successfully, and they continue on their route path to the south along this east side of the factory. So it's great to see that the Cybercab testing is continuing and it is getting more prominent. Speaking of which, on the roof, we see more of the vehicles with the LiDAR. At the video intro, we talked about how these are being seen all over Austin as they continue to do testing and preparation for the Robotaxi unveil and launch through Austin in June. The ground floor here still has the privacy fences, and as I zoom in, it's a nice shot of some of the LiDAR-equipped Model Ys on the roof. We've seen a lot more of those in the past, but I just wanted to point out that that privacy fence is still there, and they're using this as part of the operations for that Robotaxi launch. And this is where many of those vehicles with the LiDAR plus the Cybercabs are housed during the times that they're either charging or doing testing or preparing for them to go out onto the roads. The bottom of the screen is the W&W Glass Company workshops, and the last parts of the created glass, most of which has now been installed, and the crews are busy installing the last parts of that on this east side of the factory. First, I wanted to stop here, zoom in, and show you these crates with the blue tops. These were delivered on my previous video. It looks like maybe they are starting to unpackage those, and this is what that looks like today. Also, glass is being maneuvered here at the bottom right of the screen in preparation of installing along this side. This is a nice view of how much of that glass has been installed on this extension. They're kind of working in that funnel part where the glass panels are getting smaller and smaller, so that section will be completed, and then they'll have this midsection ready to go and finish up all of the glass here very soon. It does look like there may be a driveway in the area where that red man lift is on the center of the screen. So I'm going to monitor that and see how the glass comes together. But a nice overall view with good lighting of the cooling plant and where this glass is being installed with the entire factory in view. So I'm going to maneuver down around the south end, kind of give you this view of what all of this area looks like, and then I decided I'm going to drop the drone down and show you some of the grass seed mix that is being placed around the berm of the Cyber Pond. And as I bring the drone down lower, this is a nice vantage point to see how much of that is being done, and they're kind of reshaping the berm on the left as well. Now on the right, crews are working on some more of the landscaping here. Don't know if they're adding more grass seed, if they're doing some dirt and or other materials, or if they're just doing some patchwork. But the grass is starting to turn green pretty well now that we're almost into spring, and this is kind of what this area looks like. The southwest corner is busy with a lot of materials, and crews just preparing some of the ice buckets for distributing around the site. I'm going to come up onto the roof and show you that there is potentially some work going on with not only these ventilation ducts, the kind of black housings here, but also we can see the Unirack mounts being laid out here, plus a large grouping that has just recently been brought up via the crane. And these are used for solar panels. So it is possible that they are preparing to start extending the amount of solar panels throughout the roof section. And just as a reminder, only about half of the eventual 70,000 solar panels are installed, so they still have a lot more to go. So bring the drone around and drop it back down here on the southwest side. We see more of the Cybertrucks being stored temporarily in this holding lot on the right. We do see activity with the temporary loading platform on the left, and this crane has been moving some of those racks onto the roof that we just talked about. Of course, they are continuing to prepare this new window line to tie it together with the extension on the right. They still have not added the glass in yet, and I'm still waiting to see if they're going to paint the wall on the bottom floor here black to match the one on the right-hand side. As I stay at this altitude, I'll fly along here. We see some of the smaller glass panels in that rack just going underneath the drone, some more of the deliveries with the crates of glass on the left. And as I continue to fly up over the roadway towards the caisson, just wanted to show you the work that is underway here. Most of it's around the fence. They have not done the drilling yet to connect this caisson to the one on the other side of the bridge, but there is water at the bottom of that particular caisson. And in this section, we had seen horizontal drilling operations last week, but they kind of wrapped that up on my previous video, and all of the equipment has now been removed from the site. So I'll turn back and take a look at Giga-Texas from this vantage point before we go across the roadway. Here at this caisson, the big news is the assembly of the tunnel boring machine in preparation to begin that boring at the base of the caisson. Now on the ground we see parts of the tunnel boring machine, kind of those rusty looking cylinders with the cutting head visible next to that red container, and some other of the equipment items around the surface. But of course the work is being done at the base of the caisson, so I'll kind of maneuver the drone down here and give you a view of what is going on. Looks like the thrust ring has been installed. That's what the boring machine pushes against, and they also have the openings on the north and south ends where that boring machine will do the work through here, and then it will make those tunnels. And then those concrete tunnel segments that we've seen being stored nearby by the south bridge will be inserted into the tunnel openings, and then that will help connect all of the caissons together for this water intercept system that is being installed both on the north and the south sides of the Colorado River. So as I bring the drone back up and maneuver around the crane, this gives you a great perspective of where we are on the site. And I'm going to fly up towards the Cyber Tunnel and show you some of the updates that are going on here. Not only is it used to move the Cybertrucks, and that is continuing, but they are finishing up some of the landscaping. They've got that gray gravel mix that has been put around the tunnel, and also some of the equipment. Around here we see that large grass section being added, which goes over the tunnel between the tunnel here and the main road. And as I continue to maneuver around, this gives you a nice perspective of how this landscaping is coming together and what it will look like once it is completed. So I'll continue to fly around the tunnel. I'll pull away and I'll kind of give you an overall view of what this looks like today. And last but not least, for today's flight, I wanted to show you the production rates of the new Model Ys, and we see several of them here in this large grouping, also trucks picking them up. I did notice that there were many of the transport trailers filled with the new Model Ys departing the site today. So that is continuing despite the fact that this is a Friday and production is generally, or at least it has been for the last year, not going on Friday. But with the numbers that we are seeing, the fact that they're on trailer trucks and they're moving out and customers are getting bins and some deliveries, I think this is a great sign. And we also see this particular truck with some Cybertrucks and Model Ys. Not sure why they are choosing to use this truck in this manner, but we are getting close to that point where I think the production lines are ready to start incrementally coming up at a higher rate. And next week should be a good week for production of Model Ys, and that'll be definitely something that I am looking forward to. As I come up to the north end, I also wanted to show you that Cybertruck production is continuing. They're making a decent number of them. Some of them are on transport trucks leaving the site as well. But certainly the Cybertruck production is not at its highest that we saw last summer. But it does look like maybe they are starting to ramp that back up now that they have most of the new Model Y lines ready to go and all the people ready to start building them so they can put the people back onto the Cybertruck lines. But anyway, so that's a good view of Giga-Texas today. Make sure you like and subscribe. I really appreciate that. That does help. And I'll give you a bonus view here of some nice sun rays flying over this site. As always, thank you for your support. Have a great weekend.